Hey guys, it's Remag UK here, and I'm going to be responding to a comment from my last video, which was from Games in HD TV, and he asked me, "Hey Remag UK, can you make a video with your Dxtory settings? Because when I play with my settings at the moment, my recording FPS drops from 60 to 40 in Battlefield 3, and from 20 to 5 in DayZ." Now it sort of sounds like that's mainly a hardware issue, but I can in this video go over my Dxtory settings, my codec settings, and just set it up so you know for sure that your Dxtory is running as intended. And I can also go over the sort of advanced features that you can fiddle with if you're having certain issues. So stay put and I will go through it with you. So the first tab we have is target information. This one you don't really have to worry about, but I will explain what it's for. Basically, you have things like open broadcast software and XSplit and these different streaming softwares. So what you will need to do, if you want to use them properly, you will need to add the .exe. So I've got obs.exe there, and what that will do, it will allow the OBS software, the open broadcaster software, to use Dxtory for the direct output mode. So you can have it, get Dxtory to collect the information and capture the recording, and then just transfer it directly onto a live streaming software like OBS, which is free, very good. I'll probably do some sort of tutorial on how to set that up properly as well in the future. The next tab we have is the overlay settings. So these overlay settings is pretty straightforward. It's just what's on your screen, whether you're recording or not. You've got all sorts of settings here: screenshot frame, movie capture frame. The main things are obviously these top tick boxes. I'll go through them. Video FPS, this is just the actual FPS you're getting. So if you're not recording, it will still show in this green here, the green in the top left corner, and that will just tell you your FPS, so you can use it as for benchmarking purposes between recording and not recording. And the right file FPS, that is the FPS you're getting and actually recording at. So if you're recording at 60 FPS or trying to record at 60 FPS, this number here, which will be in orange, will tell you whether you're actually recording at 60 FPS. If you see that at 12 FPS when you're trying to record at 30 FPS, you know there's a problem with the speed of your hard drive or something down the line and you need to sort it out. The record status here is just whether it says REC or live. Folder options is next, and in this section here it is basically just selecting the hard drive you want to use and what you want to record to. For me, I've got my 3 terabytes, 7,200 RPM. What is it? I don't know. Some it's nice anyway. It's not bad, and it can record. I'll show you how you set it up anyway. So you do the folder path here. You browse folder, find the path you want. Load of random shit just came up then, nice. And you select that, and then you go to this benchmark. So you want to test, I don't know, 3, I'll do that. So you can see here, oh, it's a lot slower, maybe I need to defragment that. Normally it's up at 170 or something, so that's interesting. You can also do it manually, so you just click on the actual numbers here. There you go, and you can just change it to whatever you want. Look, obviously not that, because I don't have a super duper ridiculous thing that doesn't exist. So back to that, just click off it, like so, and it's done. So that's all it is. You can obviously set folders for screenshots as well down there, but you need a decent hard drive, preferably one with a lot of space as well. And I'll put a link in the description to a hard drive that I'd recommend. It's pretty good. And let's move on. Hotkeys, pointless. You just need to set any button there. Push to talk. This is quite useful if you have a bad microphone and there's a lot of static in the background, or you have a very, very noisy computer when you're gaming. You might want to use this push to talk option. So you could set it to your default voice comms button if you're playing when there's people on comms, because that's the only time you'll be speaking, I'd imagine. Or you can use a totally different button, but it's easier than editing out all of the static bits where you're not communicating in the video. So that's a possibility there. Moving on. Movie, this is the most important one, okay? So you'll see this up at the top, I've got profile selected default. You can see all the different profiles there, but what you want to do is put it on default, and you want to have, for anything you want to just be universal, so any game you play, just keep this use default setting ticked, and then you can just edit one profile instead of all of them individually. And these are the settings I generally use for most things. So this is an addition here, this Lagarith lossless codec. That is something that I've installed, which I'll put a link in the description as well for you guys, and it's very good. But what it does, it basically compresses on the fly. If you've got a dodgy CPU, which isn't that great, I'd stick to just using the general Dxtory video codec. But what you want to do here is go to show configuration settings basically, and you want to put it on low most likely, and take off the compress option, so that and low. Okay, if you've got a not very great CPU, and that will take off the load. It will mean the actual file sizes will be considerably more, but it will look after your CPU, keep it working, help improve performance and things like that. If you do have a decent CPU, get this one. It's really good, the Lagarith, however you say it, lossless codec, and then go to the settings here. So for this one again, you want to have that use multi-threading ticked, and for the mode you can either go for YUY2 or YV12. Either of those is good. You can go for these, but it's kind of pointless. There's no difference in quality really. I go for that bottom one there, so there you go. Frame rate is next. You can manually do this, so I could put a weird number like 23 if you wanted, or you know, whatever, 42, something random. You can set it up like that if you want, and it will do it, which is really good. It's very customizable. I generally use 30 because there's no need to really go it for anything else. I find if you're doing a slow-mo thing, you can try 60 FPS, but again with 60 FPS, bearing in mind if you're using this codec, it will be compressing on the fly, and that's a lot of CPU usage. So you might, if you're going for 60 FPS, just go for the normal Dxtory video codec and just put it to non-compress, and you know, again low quality, and you should have a better chance of reaching that 60 FPS if you've got a bad CPU. Okay, so next is scaling. So for scaling, that is pretty self-explanatory. You've got percentage here. 100% will do it, but generally I prefer to use size and just do it independently, and do it, you know, customize it myself. What you can do as well is, if you are playing in this resolution, you can also go down to 1280 by 720 like that. Okay, so that's cool. It can downscale on the fly for you, and it looks fine. It's all good. So if you want to play at 1080 but you can't really upload anything more than 720, that's perfect for you. The only other thing on this page is obviously include mouse cursor. If you want to include the mouse cursor, you can do. If you're playing a game where you need to point at things and things like that, it's useful. And for the output here, file output is what you need if you are recording, and if you are doing streaming, you need direct show output like that. And you can do both, but that's pretty consuming of everything really. But you can try it if you want. And AVI is the better format, but you can do raw cap. But there's a raw cap converter down here which is built in, so you can do that, but AVI is perfectly fine, so I'll just use that really. And there we go. One thing to mention as well with the resolutions down here, if you are using OBS or some sort of, if you're streaming for example, so we'll take off file output, this here, you want to, well, if you're streaming at 720p, you can obviously crank it up to 60 FPS if you've got a good connection, and it means that it will downscale through this, which is more direct. So you don't need to downscale through the actual streaming software. So in the streaming software, you just put the actual resolution instead of trying to, because the actual streaming softwares also have a downscaling. So you don't want to stack two downscalings because it makes the screen blurry. And I find you get better quality doing it through this. and then having the streaming software on the full resolution of this 1280 by 720 as if you're actually playing on that. So that's just another tip for you. So moving on to audio, this is where you've got multiple channels. I've got my new PC 363D headset, so it's got some sort of Game 1 USB sounds card type thing. So they're my speakers. Microphone, I've got an AT2020, which is what I'm using now. It's a good condenser mic. But yeah, you can add as many of these as you like. Look, you can just keep going. You can set up virtual audio cable and divide Ventrilo with your own microphone and with the game, so it's all good. This you can just leave 48 is fine. 44,100 hertz is equally fine as well. Either of those is perfectly fine for YouTube. And that's pretty much it. So you've got here the used push to talk hotkey as well. Okay, and obviously you want record sound ticked, otherwise it won't bloody do anything. So that's if you want to use a push to talk hotkey, which is useful if you've got a staticky mic. Otherwise you don't need to, it's fine, you can have it recording all the time. Now this tab, this is interesting, the advanced tab. So the one thing I do change is the processing thread, so I changed that to 8. But it all comes down to your personal preference. You can record perfectly fine with 1 processing thread being used, or 2. I think recommended by most people is 2. That just uses 1 core, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't have a quad core with 8 threads, as I do, just you know, fiddle around with it. Use what you want really. Whatever works the best. I've noticed in some games you get micro stutter if you only use one core or 1 thread, whereas other games it's fine with 1 thread. It depends how well optimized they are really. So 8 processing threads generally takes out micro stuttering if you are having a problem. All of these other things here pretty much not required. If you're having a lot of problems with you know, maybe you feel like your FPS is dropping more than it should, you can try full CPU processing. And if you've got Crossfire or SLI and you're having problems and it won't let you record properly, you can try the multi GPU fix code. But again, yeah, it's totally up to you. I mean, these are just irrelevant now, so that's pretty much it, guys. That is my educational tour for you of this fantastic software. Can't fault it at all. If you've got any further questions which I haven't gone over, then please ask them in the comments below and I will be sure to answer them for you. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video that I make.